Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hollywood, Explained USA. The story begins at one of the most prestigious universities in America, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also known as MIT. Inside a large classroom, we see Professor Gerald Lambeau teaching advanced mathematics to his students. He is known as one of the sharpest minds at the university. As the lecture comes to an end, Professor Gerald does something unusual. He tells his students that he is going to write an extremely difficult math problem on the board outside the classroom. He explains that this problem is so challenging that only a true genius can solve it. To motivate them, he announces that whoever solves it will have their name written in golden letters at MIT, a huge honor for any student. Professor Gerald further tells the class that some of his former students managed to solve this same problem years ago, and today, those students are leading experts in their respective fields. However, because of how difficult the question is, he gives the students the entire semester to work on it. After the class ends and the students leave, we are introduced to Will Hunting. Will is not a student. He works at MIT as a janitor. While cleaning the hallway, he notices the complicated math problem written on the board. Unlike the students, Will doesn't panic or ignore it. He quietly studies the equations with curiosity. Later that night, Will goes back to his small apartment. Instead of relaxing, he starts working on the math problem. Using his bathroom mirror as a writing surface, he begins solving the equation step by step. It becomes clear that Will has an extraordinary natural talent for mathematics. By the end of the night, he has solved the problem completely. The next morning, before anyone arrives, Will goes back to the hallway. When no one is watching, he picks up the chalk and writes the correct solution on the board. This is shocking, because he solves a problem meant to take months in just one day. Outside of his job, Will spends most of his time with his childhood friends in South Boston. They drink together, joke around, and live simple lives. One day, while watching a baseball game, Will notices a man in the crowd, someone who used to bully and abuse him when he was a child. Seeing this man brings back painful memories. Will loses control of his emotions. He and his friends follow the man outside, and Will brutally attacks him. When the police arrive and try to stop the fight, Will punches a police officer. Because of this serious offense, Will is arrested and sent to jail. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald discovers that the impossible math problem has been solved. He rushes to the board and carefully checks the solution. It is flawless. Excited, he questions his top students, but none of them claim credit. This leaves him shocked and confused. He realizes that an unknown genius exists somewhere inside MIT. In the next lecture, the classroom is completely full. Word has spread about the mysterious math genius. Professor Gerald asks the person who solved the problem to step forward so he can reward them. But no one comes forward. Slightly annoyed, he writes another math problem on the board. He tells the class that it took him 2 years to solve this one, and confidently says that even the previous genius one, he solved it overnight. At the same time, Will is released from jail on temporary bail. After finishing his janitor duties, he once again notices the new math problem. Without hesitation, he starts solving it. Professor Gerald walks out of his office and sees Will writing on the board. Thinking Will is vandalizing university property, he yells at him. Panicked, Will runs away. When Professor Gerald later checks the board, he freezes. The problem has been solved, and perfectly. A question that took him 2 years was solved in minutes. At that moment, he realizes that the janitor is the math genius he's been searching for. Later that night, Will and his friends go to a bar. Chucky, Will's best friend, tries to impress a group of girls by lying that he studies at MIT. A confident man overhears and starts questioning Chucky about history, exposing him and humiliating him in front of everyone. Before things get worse, Will steps in. Using his incredible memory and intelligence, he completely dominates the debate. He explains complex historical facts effortlessly and humiliates the man, pointing out that paying huge tuition fees just to memorize books is meaningless. The man leaves embarrassed. One of the girls, Skylar, is deeply impressed by Will's intelligence and confidence. She gives him her phone number and asks him to call her. Soon after, Professor Gerald tracks Will down at his court hearing. Will is facing serious charges for assaulting a police officer. Because of his violent past, the judge is ready to send him to prison. Professor Gerald steps in and offers a deal. Will can stay out of jail if he agrees to study advanced mathematics with him and attend therapy sessions. Will agrees, not because he cares about math, but because he hates being locked up. As Will begins working with Professor Gerald, his genius becomes undeniable. However, during therapy, Will refuses to cooperate. He humiliates therapist after therapist by reading their books beforehand and exposing their weaknesses. Out of options, Professor Gerald contacts his old college roommate, Sean Maguire, a psychology professor. Sean reluctantly agrees to meet Will. Unlike the others, Sean doesn't analyze Will. He talks to him like a normal human being. When Will insults Sean's late wife, Sean finally snaps and warns him never to cross that line again. For the first time, Will realizes he can't break this therapist. Over time, Will slowly opens up. He starts dating Skylar, but his fear of abandonment causes problems. In therapy, Will finally admits that he was abused as a child. Sean repeatedly tells him, "It's not your fault." After resisting, Will breaks down completely, releasing years of pain. Will is offered high-paying jobs through Professor Gerald, but he feels trapped. Skylar asks him to move to California with her, but fear makes him push her away. Chucky confronts Will and tells him the truth, that the best part of his day is hoping Will one day be there someday. That moment changes everything. In the end, Will leaves a letter for Sean and drives to California to reunite with Skylar. When Chucky goes to pick Will up for work and finds the house empty, he smiles, knowing Will finally chose his future. Sean reads Will's letter and smiles, saying that the genius will be just fine. If you enjoyed this full movie explanation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and support Hollywood Explained USA.